What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Justin Davis. Today I have my caddx Walksnail goggles right here. These are the X goggles. They came in finally. There was a bit of a shipping delay for myself and Bardwell, so you probably won't see our reviews coming out until, finally this week. They're finally here. And I've seen most of the other reviews. They're very technical, and this one's not gonna go super deep. I'm not gonna go down the rabbit hole in this review, but I do wanna do a real world comparison of the DJI O3s and the Goggles 2 versus the brand new Avatar HD Pro, dual antenna VTX, and the X goggles. So head to head in the backyard, we're gonna do a penetration test. We're also gonna do a camera comparison from the DJI O3 camera and the brand new Avatar HD Pro camera from caddx and Walksnail. I think you're gonna be surprised at which one looks better. So yeah, 1080p on these, 100 frames per second, 1920 by 1080p resolution. And it just gets better from there. This one actually goes in the box as well again. And this time around, XT60 on here, not the proprietary DJI battery on this one. You can go up to a 6S battery on these and it'll last all day. These might last you 2.5 hours if you're lucky. So no more proprietary battery on these. I'm excited about that. So let's go ahead and fire up the X goggles and do this full comparison for you finally, and then we'll hit the bench after the comparison and the flight review. Here we go. Okay guys, so we're recording on the quad. I'm gonna go ahead and take off now, and so I'm just gonna walk you through this flight test together with the Pavo 20. And we're gonna take a spin around the house first, and then we're gonna go outside, all the way to the back of the property. So let's go ahead out now. Not wasting any time, let's just go right outside. So right now I am completely like one wall of the house and all the way down past the chicken coop here. Let's go behind the shed. Oh wow, that's beautiful. Little bit of breakup there, tiny little bit of breakup, just a little bit. There goes a squirrel. Hello, squirrel. So you saw just the tiniest bit of breakup back there. There's a little bit of kind of pixelation back here behind the shed. This is all the way to the back side of the property right here. Let's just hang out here for a second. That's pretty good. I can still totally see back here. Analog system would have completely dropped me to the ground. That's really awesome. So did that do better than DJI O3? I'm kind of on the fence about whether this does better than O3. I'm interested to see how the Dark Star does in comparison, because I can see the detail on the leaves here behind the shed. That's really awesome. I don't see a lot of pixelization here. That's pretty impressive. So let's go ahead, let's come back in now and let's switch out to the Dark Star. We'll just do a little more flying around just because this quad is flying great. And I like the way this camera looks. It looks pretty true to color back there. I thought indoors it was going to be a little bit yellow as far as the camera goes. But once I got outside, the colors look great. It's super windy outside today, of course, too. But let's go ahead and come back inside. I'm gonna go ahead and land, and we will fire up the Dark Star 20. And I'll also go ahead and put up some side-by-side screen comparison for you guys so you can see the Avatar HD Pro next to DJI O3. But first, let's do that flight test of the Dark Star 20. And let's go ahead and take off. Right now I'm flying this one on 2S. So for some reason they put Dark Star 20 right in the middle of the screen too. It's kind of annoying. But it feels great around the house. I do see a little bit of noise in this camera versus the Walksnail Avatar HD Pro, which is very interesting to me. So I feel like the camera quality, I don't know, you guys. What do you think is better? We'll definitely put like both up side by side there so you can see it. But let's go ahead and go out in the backyard now. And let's go down past the chicken coop. Outside is where this camera looks really great. I would say like the Avatar camera looks better inside, but here we are behind the shed. And I don't see any breakup here really behind the shed.
And I feel like I see better definition in the trees and the leaves. So maybe the 03 camera and the VTX is still gonna be a strong competitor to this Goggles X and the Avatar HD Pro. So I'm gonna go up through here, through the trees like we always do. This is the full backside of the property, through the house. I don't see any breakup here, no pixelization. And you're looking at the goggle DVR right there. So we're not cheating and showing you like onboard DVR. Let's go back behind the shed again. And almost no breakup. Let's get right up against the shed wall there. Man, it's gonna be hard to beat DJI's VTX. And you know, this is just a comparison. It's not really to kind of see who's the winner here, but I mean, obviously the winner looks like, to me, if I was to be 100% honest, the DJI 03 VTX seems to be doing better, because if you remember, when we first flew behind the shed with the Walksnail X, it seemed like, that wind's really pushing me around. It seems like we did see a little bit of like pixelization, a little bit of blur, and I'm really looking for it here, but I don't see it. Maybe when you get in the darker areas, but over here by the leaves where we first came through with Walksnail X. Now I didn't see a lot of pixelization with Walksnail X, but I did see some pixelization there. So it looks like the penetration test as far as like DJI 03 versus the Walksnail X, even with the dual antennas, we still got a little bit of pixelization with the Walksnail X, and almost none with DJI 03. So yeah, that's a great test. It actually says a lot. But I do feel like the camera indoors, the Walksnail camera the Avatar camera looks better to me indoors. And here, right here, you can see there is a lot of like pixelization, at least what I see in the goggles right here. So I feel like their camera has less pixels and less like grit. And that's what I'm seeing here. I'm seeing grit inside. I don't see it as much with the 03 outside, but inside where it's darker, this is where you can really see the camera grit. If I hold still right here, look at the ceiling. You can see the grit and the grain. Okay, so that was a lot of fun. That showed me a lot about the difference in the 03 camera and the Avatar Pro HD camera. Definitely more pixelization for the Avatar HD Pro and the Goggles X behind the shed. DJI 03 had less, but DJI 03 seemed to also have more noise and more pixel blur just in the camera view inside the house. So the Walksnail camera did look better. The Avatar HD Pro looked better indoors versus the DJI 03. So that's something to be said for Walksnail and caddx.
All right, guys, welcome back from the flight test. That was a lot of fun, and this really proved a lot to me as far as the camera quality, the penetration, and how well they do against DJI 03 and the DJI Goggles 2. Now, these goggles come at $459 for the Goggle X version. They do have some different foam options, I believe, coming up, and they also have a V2 antenna, patch antenna. This one was sent to me as is, and I'm gonna go ahead and open up the box for you, just do a little quick unboxing. It has kind of a smaller looking case here. These goggles do appear to be a lot smaller than the V1 goggles, but I like the case mainly because you don't have to take off the antennas now to get them in the brand new case, which is great. Now inside the case, we have the XT60 on a cable and a barrel connector. I prefer that style because it allows me to put any size battery in my pocket. And if you've been using goggles too, you've been doing the same thing, but you've had to use DJI's proprietary little battery, which doesn't last that long. If I'm using something like a Lion 18650 pack with something like the Goggles X, they can last much longer than the DJI battery can. So that's a big perk and big plus about the Goggles X. Also in the box, we get this card here, which is a quick start guide and a lens wipe right here. The Goggles X on the scale weigh 316.2 grams. The DJI goggles are just a little bit lighter at 298.5 grams, and both these goggles are weighed without the cord. The original Walksnail Avatar goggles weigh in at 342.9 grams, so they are a bit heavier. They also didn't fit in the case without taking off the patch antennas and the top antennas, so that was kind of a drawback. Every time I went to fly, I had to take the antennas on and off, and the power supply that came with it also had an XT60, but it was only powered up to a 5S battery versus the new goggles can handle a 6S battery. All three of these goggles have different types of straps and different foam faceplates. The original Goggles 2 here have kind of a nice soft foam faceplate. They are pretty thick, and it seems to be thicker than what the X has on it, as well as the older Walksnails have a little bit less foam padding, but these can come off and you can replace those on the original Walksnail. That's kind of nice. This one also has a wide cord strap in the back. It's adjustable, and it was large enough to fit even my head with a hat or like some kind of beanie on. Now, if you have a larger head, the new X ones, they have a pretty small strap. They do appear to have kind of a faux leather side on and a stretchy backside, but the thing is, I had to put them all the way out to the very edge to be able to get them on with a beanie on my head. Without a beanie, I can move them in just a little bit, but that's something to take in consideration if you have a large head. This is a fairly small strap. It's kind of deceiving because in the video you really can't tell, but in person, once you try them on, you're probably going to be scooching them out all the way to the furthest point to get them on your head. All three of these pairs of goggles have a pretty low profile from the front, and the Avatar X definitely has the lowest profile of any of them. The DJI is probably the widest, but as far as from front to back goes, DJI has the other two beat as far as front to back profile goes. And the Walksnail Originals, they're much wider than any of them and much heavier. The new X is just a little bit more narrow front to back, but still a nice size pair of goggles in your hand. It feels smaller, way smaller than the original goggles, and it feels about the same as the Goggles 2. Now, the diopter range on the DJI Goggles 2 is from 2 to -8, so that's a pretty large focal range if you wear glasses. That's going to be important to you to not have to wear your glasses with the DJI Goggles 2. If you're trying to adjust the focal range on the new X model, you got +2 to -6, so just a little less focal range than the DJI Goggles 2 have. And as far as fit and comfort and light leaks go, I had no light leaks with the DJI 2 goggles. It has a larger nose point here than this one. This one's not quite as deep, it's a little more shallow. If you have a larger nose, you're going to need something a little bit deeper there to get them closer to your eyes and fit properly. So I felt like the Goggles 2 fit a little more properly with these nice soft foam faceplates. These have a little harder faceplates, so I did have some light leaks along the bottom of the Walksnail X goggles. What I also thought was kind of nice is that DJI Goggles 2 also come with diopter and lens protector there. So you can put this over when you put it in your case for storage. Your lenses are covered and they're not going to get scratched or get dust on them. These did not come with any lens cover, so I'm hoping that maybe caddx and Walksnail will come out with a lens cover set for the X goggles. Now, some of my first impressions of this pair of goggles was that they were super sleek out of the box, and I almost thought the outside shell and covering was like some kind of aluminum or metal, because they have it so well polished and it just has this kind of metal feel to the exterior case. I'm also told that we're probably going to be able to mod those cases as well. Now, on the very top right here, if you pull this faceplate off, you can remove this patch antenna. These goggles do have 4 front-facing antennas and the patch antenna on the very top, so technically they have 5 antennas. Underneath that, just underneath that, if you unplug the UFL connector, you'll be able to pull off with 4 screws, I believe it was 4 screws, and a few more UFL connectors. You can pull off the VRX, which is huge. So that's what makes these future updatable. Walksnail and caddx are going to allow you to be able to update the VRX inside these goggles, which means you can use the same pair of goggles with the new VRX and get the new features that they put out in the future. DJI is not going to let you do that. You're going to have to buy a whole brand new pair of DJI 04 goggles to be able to get the new hardware. That's not going to happen with Walksnail and caddx. So they're able to be upgraded in the future, which I think is huge for the FPV community, and it's really more open source feeling than being a proprietary pair of goggles that you can't update. You have to sell to get the new ones, which I've done for years myself. Over on the right hand side of the goggles, we have what looks like a power button, but it is not. It's just pressed into the plastic to let you know that the barrel connector is here for that power. And this is from 2 to 6S barrel connection with an XT60 input on the other end of the cable. Over here we have this bind button, which has a little bit of a recessed button inside here. It's red. If you press that, it will put the goggles into bind mode, and then you'll be able to bind it to your VTX of choice. Now just below that we have a joystick as well, all the way down to the bottom, a back button, and we have a record button here that has a play icon on there. And remember when I mentioned before that the straps were a little bit short for me? They do look like they'll support just about any type of FPV strap out there, because it is just this type of kind of loop on each side. So that will let you use whatever fat strap out there you'd like to use with these goggles, which makes them, again, more kind of open source feeling. We also have extra venting here on the top as well, and on the bottom right in front of the nose area. We have adjustable diopters down here, like we talked about before, focal range adjustment, and we have an HDMI in and an HDMI out over here as well. So lots of people are rejoicing about that. Some updates are going to come out for these as well. We also have an SD card connector there, and audio and video in here. Proximity sensor right in the center of the two lenses. When you move them away from your face, the screens are going to turn off. When you get close to your face again, it will turn on the screens. These goggles also have front-facing LEDs, which do appear to be changeable. I've seen them in red and blue and purple so far. And once you turn them on, there they are, they're green. Now, when it came down to the real-world flight test of these two out in the backyard, outside our house, I mean, you're basically testing out the power and penetration of the dual antenna setup on both of these. Now, the handicap that I feel that DJI had today was actually that I was using dipole antennas on there. These are the stock dipole antennas that come with the GEP-RC Darkstar 20. So in comparison to something like this, a much taller antenna, I was kind of hoping that we would see a little better performance on the Goggles X, and it seemed like we saw a little bit of pixelization and blur back behind the shed, and it was just ever so slightly. It wasn't a lot, but I did notice that the O3 handled the penetration a little bit better than the Goggles X and the new Avatar Pro HD that I have on here. So this is the brand new one, you know, with the two antennas. So you're going to see this one coming up in more flight tests. We're going to put it on maybe a VTOL or an FPV plane as well, and test it on some long range flights and see how it does on a little further range test with the Goggles X. But as far as indoors and the cameras go, I feel like this camera from DJI showed a lot more noise and pixelization inside in a low light level environment. That was interesting to me. You know, the DVR is going to clean all that up when you shoot in 4K at 60 frames per second. That's going to be great. But as far as the 1080p HD on this camera and 100 frames per second indoors, this camera looks superior to the DJI O3 camera. And that is really big news for people that are fans of Walksnail and caddx. I know that when caddx joined up with Walksnail, we were going to have some great stuff going on here as far as camera choices go. And we really did. Today, that was the proof that that caddx makes a great camera. And caddx, Runcam, all those companies, they make great FPV cameras. And I'm a huge fan of this one in comparison to the DJI O3. I just think it is superior to the DJI O3 camera in the indoor setting. Now, outdoors, this one still looked great, and it didn't show as much blurry or bitmapped look on there. However, this one looked great indoors and outdoors. So at the end of the day, what do I think about the Goggles X? Should you go out and buy them? I'm not here to sell them to you. I'm just here to tell you what I think about them, so you can kind of see my testing and formulate your own opinion on these. I think that they're great outside. I feel like the camera, again, even looks even better inside. It's superior to the DJI O3. That's my opinion. And if I put them up on the screen earlier, if you're watching, you should have saw for yourself too. It was a much clearer looking camera inside, and outside they both looked great. I do like the fact that they have this dual antenna support for the HD Pro kit. I know a lot of guys want to use this particular Walksnail HD kit for VTOLs and FPV planes. So that's super cool with ArduPilot and iNav for people who are doing that. Or even if you wanted to put this on a 7-inch long range quad, you can do that. 6-inch as well, 5-inch also. But I feel like I like the way that these look out of the box. I like the fact that they can go back in the box now with the antennas on. I feel like the inside screens really have a nice feel to them. They're IP adjustable enough for me to be able to see. I'm kind of nearsighted myself, so I have to go in and focal adjust these for being able to see. And normally I can't see at all with box goggles. So a lot of times I'm stuck to using the binocular style goggles. Now they do look and appear to be much nice made than the original Walksnail goggles, as well as the antennas don't have to be taken off like the new ones to go in the case. And the case appears smaller than the original case that the Walksnail Avatars had. This is the original case, and annoying that you had to take off the antennas. But I feel like the quality of these are great as far as the construction of them. I thought this was kind of a metal case. I like the way the DVR looked. I also like that the OSD can be separated from the goggles DVR. So if you don't want the OSD on your goggles DVR, you can choose not to use it like that, or you can add your OSD back to it and bring it back out to an MPEG file. That's kind of a cool feature. As far as the faceplate goes, I feel like this faceplate could be a little bit better, and I found myself wanting to polish these front pieces because of my OCD. I see fingerprints every single time I touch these. You can kind of see fingerprints on whatever this plastic material is, this high gloss plastic. So maybe I'll switch those out in the future. But you know, LEDs are kind of nice on the front too, but I don't feel like I need those. I just want high performance and a really slick looking pair of goggles. But you know, that's nice that they threw in the LEDs on there, which do change colors, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I'm happy that they're almost on par with penetration with DJI 3, and the camera looks better than the DJI 3. So that's a lot to be said for a brand new release from Walksnail and caddx. That's pretty huge that they're on par and better in some aspects with their cameras. So it's not surprising when it comes to caddx. So thumbs up to caddx engineers for doing that. And again, I'm not here to sway you or change your mind. I'm simply here to give you my opinion on these products and review them from my own perspective and my own research. And that's what this channel is all about. It's not an advertising channel. I got these for free. I'm not trying to sell them to you. And I'm just like everybody else out there who makes reviews and does research for you. That will tell you that we're not actually advertising. We're actually researching and doing a lot of R&D behind the scenes for most of these companies that you guys see us review. So we're in development with a lot of them and working on new features and suggestions for all of these companies. And I've seen some of the suggestions that we've made to Walksnail and caddx for these come to life in this pair of brand new Goggles X. So that's cool to see. They're always listening to us, and not just me, they're listening to you too as well. So whether you're a team pilot or just another guy on the street flying an FPV drone, they will definitely see your opinions on this. So put some comments in this video down below what you'd like to see next coming up on the brand new, maybe the VTX kits, the cameras, or maybe some foam face plates, new antennas, modular upgrades, as well as maybe the new VRX. Some things you'd like to see in the new VRX coming up. I would like to see less connections and a little easier access to the next one coming up, because this one's a little process to take this off, but hey, they're allowing you to do that and DJI is not. So that's a lot to be said for compatibility as far as it being future proof if you're a drone pilot in the FPV community. That's major, and caddx is listening to us. DJI, they do what they want. But I'm Justin Davis, guys, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.